right, we're gonna call the meeting of July 9th of the Isla Vista Community Service District to order. Could you call the roll?
Yes, Director Brent is absent, Director Geis,
Here.
Director Bertrand,
Here.
Director Freeman,
Here.
Director Hedges is absent, Director Nguyen,
Here.
Director Thurlow.
Here.
We'd like to announce this meeting is recorded. I'd like to also say, this is the first meeting I've chaired. Director Brandt couldn't be here with a work conflict. I'd just like to say it's the first meeting Director Brandt has missed since the formation of the district. Pretty impressive, in addition to all the other committee meetings and all the things he's done for the organization. So truly a great rep. And then we want to start off with a land acknowledgement. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the Chumash people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future, who call this place Anascoyo, the land that Isla Vista sits upon, their home. We are proud to continue their tradition of coming together and growing as a community. We thank the Chumash community for their stewardship and support, and we look forward to strengthening our ties as we continue our relationship of mutual respect and understanding. With that, we could go to maybe take it in order today, the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull any items?
I'll move approval.
I will second.
Approved by Director Bertrand, second by Director Freeman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Kristen?
I said aye.
Right. That'd be 4 ayes, one abstain, and one absent. Okay, the second issue is, we're gonna take up an issue of the CDA Board of Directors, the board, public comments. See, I knew it. That was James'
No, you're
job.
doing it.
Do we have any public comments from the public on anything that is not noticed on the agenda? Seeing no public comments, we'll go to item 4.1, CSDA Board of Directors. The board will vote to support a candidate for the CSDA Board of Directors. Would you like to put any additional details in, Jonathan, explaining that?
So CSDA, we're members of the statewide organization that represents special district interests and does trainings and conferences for us and provides resources. There's a board of directors, and then there's regions that have seats on the board. We're part of the central one, as usual for most organizations, and we have 2 candidates to vote from, and I think one of them is here today. So we get a vote here. We get 1 vote as a district, so we have until August to cast.
I think in our packet, we only had Jack Curtis's resume. I don't know if we have Jeff's. Oh, we have Jeff's right here. Okay, cool. I was thinking, I was looking at the application process.
No.
Any comments from the?
Yes, thank you. Jeff Hodge, I have had the pleasure of being that representative for the last 3 years for the Central Coast and for this region. There's 3 of us within, from Ventura to Monterey. And I'm here for any and all questions. I follow you from afar because my day job is like Jonathan's, as a general manager in Santa Ynez. So don't always make that, but have made some meetings in the past. But once again, thanks to your social media presence, follow it that way. And one of your board members seems to end up at a lot of our meetings too. So I have that info into to what goes on here. So I think in the grander scheme of things, you haven't really needed our services, and now are starting to go to the general manager conference and hopefully the annual conference and continue to participate with the organization. But I just welcome any questions you have of me, and then please ask for your vote too. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. What are your 2 or 3 top priorities with service on the board of directors?
I think the bigger one, you guys are kind of in between, is seeing the smaller districts. The way we're really portioned, you have the LA areas and San Diego's that they have, hundreds of employees and stuff. And I find myself as one of the board members there, probably of one of the smaller districts. I mean, I have like 6 employees counting myself. So having that balance so that we're represented there equally. And I think the more important thing is the same thing that you guys have fought for here, is that we have that local control that isn't diluted. That we have that say, and that we have that you know, we're fortunate that we have that equal vote here on LAFCO, but that we maintain that presence on all those issues. You know, we have some different funding ones that you guys have, but as districts overall, we're really being impacted by the growth issues, and trying to balance that out, knowing that just as you guys are kind of landlocked and can use, you know, probably 2,000 more, you know, housing units, the same way with a lot of the small communities, but how to balance that out. So those are issues that really come up that affect the water and sewer. And thank you for that question, because the other one that I said, I'm the vice chair of the legislative committee. I've been that for the last 3 years, and that's where you see all that legislation come through there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I was, we've seen Jeff many times. He showed up at our meetings. I think he was actually at our first meeting when our district got set up. He's somebody who's many people on our board have talked to. I know Spencer and I think Ethan has talked to you before. I know Jonathan's talked to you and I've talked to you. We've learned a lot about the interesting things. I've gotten some great ideas from Jeff that I brought before the board, but I think sometimes it's worked out well. I think one of the things that's really interesting about Jeff is that he cares about our district and is here, and is somebody that we have access to, and I'm supportive of Jeff in this position.
What can you do for us?
I'm
Cut right to the chase.
I'm that conduit back to the legislature, because just as, you know, you guys were formed, you see how important that mechanism is, because there's not always times that we're going to have that ability. I mean, sometimes there's things that don't exist that we need to create, you know, and I'm that conduit to take that voice to Sacramento, because I'm there about monthly, if not twice a month during the other times. So that's an important one, that there's that additional lobby. And we're actually finding ourselves as a special district association chiming in more and more of these aspects of being that tipping point, you know, with cities and counties, but coming out with, as I was saying, with the auxiliary dwelling units, some of the different CalPERS issues, just funding issues like that, you know, we're finally being recognized that way as to, well, how do you guys feel about it? What's your membership think?
What's the position of the CSDA on these replacements for redevelopment, and how can you push that agenda forward where we essentially get a replacement for redevelopment?
You mean a replacement for the redevelopment itself? Because I think we kind of affectionately refer to it as like RDA 2.0, or now it's almost moved into 2.1.
Right.
And our position is that the legislature is already moving forward with it. It looks like that's going to happen in some form. So really where it affects most of the other special districts is in ensuring that money comes back to the special districts. So I think probably the more important one is we're not opposed to them. You know, we're just looking out for everyone in totality, that we get our pass-through monies, because such as myself, I have some street lights, and some of that, it's essential that still comes through, because that's the only way that I can fund those. So we really have a neutral position on them forming, and a positive one on protecting that, okay, we're fine with you creating them, that's great, we have the need for them, and let's continue to make sure we have our monies, because as you guys know, that money's hard to come by once you lose it.
Just a follow-up to that, you know, for our Isla Vista RDA, the special districts weren't getting pass-throughs, they were contributing to the RDA. And now, at the dissolution of the RDA, the special districts are getting a windfall. Some people could look at it as a windfall backwards. And, you know, the question is, I would imagine the special districts would oppose and only want pass-through agreements and not provide any funding to an RDA. Therefore, if schools are excluded, if the special districts are excluded, if cities are excluded and the county's excluded, then there is no RDA. I mean, the only way RDA works is to get tax increment back to that agency, which that agency was doing a great job in Isla Vista about recapitalizing the infrastructure that doesn't exist out here, or that gets beat up pretty hard. So it's kind of interesting that the special districts wouldn't think about sharing their increment with an agency that would do a really good job of revitalizing and helping the infrastructure in the special districts better perform. That's just people don't get that.
Yeah, good observation, but I think kind of the conversation that I was hearing before the meeting, where we, you know, that 13 Prop 13 keeps everything down there, and our costs have escalated. I think that's why they're protective of it, because, you know, we wish we all could. And I think that's, on the same note, you know, there's still, the realtors last year were looking to do, where you had that portability of that Prop 13 money. And it died, but it was like the next day, the legislature went a different way with it, so we'll probably see it. But I think those are what we're more concerned about, is that there's no other ways for us to raise those revenues. And I think more importantly then is the excuse me, the dialogue locally, so that we can find some mechanism with that, because we all struggle with that.
So what's your legislative committee's position on dual property tax rolls? Have you taken a position on?
We have not right now.
reforming
Last I
Prop
saw was
13?
a watch position, you know, because there's just so many of those nuances as to how is it going to play out. And I think it's back to that ours is kind of on the bottom, we're the really stable one, you know, so I know that most of the time here recently we've been, if it's a coalition, we'll jump in with the county, CSAC, and the league, the municipal league. But last I knew, it was still just a watch position, I'd see where it's gonna go.
So, yeah, I just have one question, and Chris, did you have anything?
No.
You know, when we were formed, I think the State Association of Special Districts took a no position on us. And, you know, it always kind of sticks in my craw that came through our local LAFCO, who probably if we would've went through LAFCO, we wouldn't have got formed today. And I think we're doing a really good job as a special district. And I look back to that outreach and working with you guys, but I hope we also, you know, get a voice up there that there is a little different way out here in Isla Vista, and there are a lot of needs out there, and we're providing that need, but we're probably gonna look to some controversial things in the future to expand our powers and be more like a traditional special district and hopefully we get this support of the Special District Association to expand those powers so that we really become the government for this area that is a mix of the county and the special districts and UCSB and
Coastal Commission.
And the Coastal Commission.
No, we're not gonna, that's coastal.
And so,
That's a
we're
yeah.
gonna have our challenges, and we're gonna need the support of the Special Districts Association and the local LAFCO if we're gonna be successful. Anyways. So.
Well, yes, and I know that's come up in the past, and it continues to be a topic, but I think that the important thing, you know, having spent the time up there, is it's more of just that procedural thing. You know, I know that we're very supportive of having you on board and informed now, you know, and I know that this has come up in the past about how it wasn't, you know, there wasn't supportive at that time, but I think, I know that it was just the functionality of how it was done over here, and, you know, because yes, the LAFCO, as I can speak personally too, causes some fun issues. You know, we're having it right now in San Ynez between us and Solvang. There's an area of lots of homes, but they're kind of in the no man area and running into the same things, that they're applying LAFCO laws as to it's virgin land to, hey, Environmental Health Services changed the laws here, and these homes already exist. They need to be in sewer, but out agency and this and that. But I think back to the yes, and I think more importantly, I've seen some of the other districts look to that, as I stated earlier, that you know, sometimes it just doesn't fit, so you have to go through that legislative process to create that. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, because probably won't be time for the city. So thank you.
If there's no other comment, any public comment? Seeing none, look for a motion.
I was actually going to add on to the notion that in the past when I talked with Jeff, Jeff is actually very encouraging of the idea of us expanding powers, and you'll notice that he was actually at our meeting about trying to expand into trash powers.
Yes, I got it. I think it was just a little too early, but.
Well, if you're looking for a motion, I'll move that we endorse Jeff for this position.
I will second that.
Motion and a second.
Even as his hand started to go out.
But, yeah, happy with your second. I would have, but you got it. But procedural question, are we authorizing the board president to cast a vote, the general manager to cast a vote? How do we cast this
I
vote?
got the link, so I'll just cast it. It's an
Okay.
online ballot
So we're authorizing the general manager to cast a vote for
for Jeff.
Jeff Edmonds.
Cool, so is that our motion?
Motion by Thurlow, second by Freeman.
Yes.
Friendly amendments are good. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Glad I could make it.
All right. The next item is payroll transition support contract. The board will consider approval of a contract to support the district transition from a monthly payroll to a bi-weekly. Jonathan has a report on this.
The agency that was proposing to help us dropped out of the process, so nothing on this right now. Gonna go with the backup for next time.
And Jonathan and I did have a little discussion on the difficulties of just getting a payroll up and running and all the things that we need to do. And I suggested maybe that we could get a meeting with the county auditor's payroll manager who runs their bi-weekly payroll, and she's really good. And I think she maybe would give us or help us with somehow to get a checklist together and when it's good time to do a transition and make that conversion, so.
More on that.
With that,
We skipped
final
1.2.
item,
You skipped one.
which one did I say? Oh,
The big one.
How about if we do that one last, cause it might take some discussion, and is Ross on the phone?
He's standing by.
Okay, and then, the 4.4 is approval of budget adjustments. The board will consider approval of budget adjustments for the 2018-19 budget. This is last year's budget.
Last year's budget, it's putting in the budget our fund balances that are reserves that we wanted to actualize. So Bob and I have been working on this and it's looking very good. We have 571,000 in our fund balance, and 59 of that is for UCSB's grant to us that will go into our programs next year, and then I think it's 517 is for, or 511, sorry, I did the math wrong. 511 is our reserve balance, and we'll have a more specific report on how these got filled, but for the most part, what you have, because this is the budget end, and then we actually put the cash in separately, but this is pretty much where we got to, so.
Great work.
We're
Great
almost
work,
done
everybody.
filling our initial goals.
We have one more transaction
Yeah.
to do on Finn, and they couldn't do it interest apportionment today, so they're hopefully doing it tonight, and we can do that tomorrow morning. But I think that the cool thing is we've filled up every reserve, at least to the minimum levels, and we got a pretty big chunk in this cumulative capital outlay that by the end of next year, we would have our 250 goal, and we can go out and start searching for partners to do something significant for the community. And I don't think we'll get there that easy in the future. Meaning it'll take a long time to get up to these 250 limits to be able to do something nice and something that the community needs, so. Anyways, so if we have a motion?
I will move approval of budget adjustments for 2018-2019 budget.
Second.
The 18-19 budget, 18-19, yeah. There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That was Bertrand and Thurl, right?
Got it.
All right, back to the one that's a little bit tougher.
Great. So, exciting news, we made the offer and the person accepted. Her name's Deborah Anderson. I'll have a more full profile of her for, the next board meeting when she's possibly here. If not, we're trying to figure out start date. It looks like it's probably gonna be August 1st, so maybe not the next board meeting, but, one of the upcoming ones will have a better introduction of her. But this is the contract that I also have. It includes salary, 65,000 is what she accepted. That was what we were offering on the job description. It still includes the old health benefits or the current health benefits. She understands that we'll need to do an amendment later to, revise that. It includes still the monthly payroll, so she understands that we'll have to do an amendment in the future to amend that. Otherwise, it's almost exactly like my contract, except instead of board directives, it says general manager directives, so, because they're the employee. My relationship is to the board and theirs is to me. So, those are the main changes. Bob, you wanna call Ross now to answer your questions? Or just-
Yeah. I just have one question
Yeah.
about the at-will status.
Yes. So let
And
me-
then these, these provisions where it kicks into these, what's the word? The termination for cause.
Yeah.
And so,
Let me get them on. Hey Ross, it's Jonathan, you're on speakerphone with the board. Hey.
Hello.
So we're on the assistant general manager contract, and Bob had some questions about the termination clauses.
hey, Ross? Hi, Ross. Hey, so under the employment status, it says that the assistant manager is at will. And I pretty much understand that a person could be let go for any reason, if they weren't working out with the district. But then it gets a little bit confusing when you kick over to this, the sections that point out the termination for cause. And does that mean that if an employee violates any of these things under 4.0, does that mean that the general manager would have to let that person go? I mean, when you have a termination for clause, is this a clause for the employee that says, you can't do any of these things, and if you do, you're gonna be terminated?
Right, so the intention in putting this contract together was to have certain provisions that if violated, that was it. If there was a termination for something other than those provisions, then there's basically an opportunity for the position, the person in the position to go through a process to be able, it's not really an appeal, but so much of it is like an opportunity to, provide context to, et cetera. That was the intention, and it mirrors the provision in, Jonathan's contract as the general manager. If it's too complicated, or if that's not consistent with the board policy direction, then we could simply make it at will and remove the extraneous position.
Well, I guess my simple question is, let's say let's say the employee just turns out to be a difficult employee to have in the workplace to accomplish the mission, goals, and objectives of the organization, and that's the opinion of the general manager. Is that enough to put in a written statement in a polite way and terminate the employee?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ross, this is George. So my first question is this, in terms of noodling this contract, is this something that should be in public session or in closed session?
In terms of the presentation of the contract, and discussion of the terms, that's not something that can be the subject of a closed session.
Okay,
In terms of vetting, the candidates and going through, a discussion of, merits, there can be certain components of that hiring process that can happen in closed session, but the end result has to be reported in open
Right.
session and reported, accordingly, and of course, the contract, once it's final, is something that is the public record.
okay. So let me get down in the brush, if that's okay. The first is, this person automatically gets 3 weeks of vacation the day they show up for work. That's relatively unusual. Am I reading this contract
That's our board policies.
Pardon?
That's our board policy.
Is the day you show up for work, you automatically accrue 3 weeks of vacation?
And if they leave the following week, they get paid 3 weeks? That's sort of like severance, huh?
Yeah, there is a cash out option for vacation, but not for sick, is what
Right.
our
Okay.
policies say.
Right, okay.
Why is that in the contract then, if it's part of our, like, if we change our policy, do we have to renegotiate all
The
contracts? or-
contract references.
There's references,
policy.
okay.
Okay, well, that was my other question, is it seems like there's a lot of things that in this that are contractual, that normally, I mean, I'm not sure. My biggest area of concern is writing into the contract the professional development standards. And I guess you're gonna tell me these are all, Jonathan, these are all policy? But it's written so loosely that essentially contractually, we're obligated to do a whole bunch of professional development stuff, and we can't say, no, we don't, because it's right here in the contract that we signed.
Yeah, well, this is the contract I have, so this must have been reviewed before, when I wasn't around.
Right, well, you're.
Yeah, I guess I might. so
But,
we-
well, we're also
we
talking
do-
about the fact that you're a senior manager.
Yeah.
And this is an assistant manager, and essentially we're writing into professional development, which looks to me like pretty much a blank check.
Yeah, I mean, our other policies still require that these kind of things are approved by the general manager for staff, so.
It doesn't say that in this
It doesn't
contract,
say
does
that
it?
here,
No, it says that essentially we must provide this, and this. And there's no, I mean, the problem that I have, and this is where I'm asking Ross, is do we really need this in a contractual format, or can't we just refer to policy?
You can just refer to policy. The explicit language in there about supporting professional development, it doesn't need to be there. It can be simply a statement of the district supporting the assistant general manager for professional development as per adopted and current policies.
Are you comfortable with that, Ross?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I would be more comfortable.
I was,
Because the origin of that language was when the district was considering hiring a permanent general manager, one of the things that was expressed that was important from a policy standpoint was a recognition that this general manager position was something of an incubator type of a position to foster development and
Yeah.
to train, future leaders of local government. And the idea was to carry on that language, or to carry on that policy role to the assistant general manager. If that's not consistent with the board's policy direction at this point, or it's a desire to have it simply be a professional development consistent with current policy, then that's obviously a policy decision, it's perfectly appropriate, and we can modify the language to best suit that policy direction.
Yeah, we can do that.
Is it, am I being too much of a hard ass?
No,
Okay.
totally, no, it's fine.
It's just, I hate to see it in a contract,
Yeah.
because then it's really, as opposed to a policy where you're gonna interpret the policy.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't see you have any role in interpreting this contract. In other words, so
Yeah,
anyway,
no,
I'd
makes
beat that.
perfect sense, no,
Okay.
it's good, it's
so,
good.
Ross, I just have one more question on that original employment status that I was kind of searching for an answer for. When I read 2.2 and then read 3.0 and 4.0, I didn't really get the real clear indication that if a new employee read this, they would understand what at-will termination would mean. I don't know if there's a good description of at-will termination. We sure had a great description for what termination for cause is, but, I was talking to Jonathan before the meeting and said, my philosophy was I always hired somebody and said, I want you to work for me, And I want, and vice versa, that it's a mutual relationship, that we work together. And that, you know, if it's not working out, we're gonna have an honest discussion, and we're, you know, that's what at will means. We're gonna let somebody go occasionally, without a big, you know, hearing and some onerous thing put on the general manager to explain why that might not be working out in a public hearing. It just is a little bit old school to me. That's still,
If it's designed to have the contract be a little more streamlined, or to be more specific, to help alleviate that type of a concern, then we can either remove the at-will provision and simply leave the for cause provision, which would not be my recommendation.
no.
Or take out the language on the for cause, et cetera, and then leave it just really to rest on the at will, and maybe put one more sentence to clarify exactly what that means, something that's more specific.
Mark, did I say something?
Yeah.
So with 2.2, I do think that the last sentence with the part that says the general manager may terminate the employment of the assistant general manager at any time with or without cause upon compliance with the provisions set forth in section 3 and 4. I do think that that is straightforward enough.
Okay.
Because, I mean, it does say that at the top of it, or at the beginning of that sentence, except as provided in section 2.3, like, I do think it distinguishes between how there is dismissal for reasons that are with cause, but that's not needed.
Yeah, but if you do, if you have to do this 3.2, and in the event assistant general manager is terminated for a cause, general manager shall provide assistant general with a written statement describing the cause. Well, I could see that. Are we saying that if it's a at will termination, not for cause, then 3.0 and 4.0 don't apply?
In 2.3, it indirectly states that the name clearing hearing is a state, like a right under the California like law. Is that not, like, is that a misunderstanding, that indirect statement there? Like, I don't, like, we can't remove that, can we? Because that's like something that we're required to provide them.
Correct. I think Ross might not have heard you.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Ross, in 2.3, it says that accept those rights assistant general manager may have under the California or United States constitutions to a name clearing hearing. Am I reading it correctly that that is indirectly informing us that there is a higher level law that is requiring us to have that 3.2 name clearing hearing?
Let me see if I got it
Oh,
right.
Ross, on our end, your speaker was turned off, and you also probably couldn't hear me that well. Yeah, so in 2.3, there's this indirect statement about the assistant general manager may have rights that the assistant general manager may have under the California United States Constitution or name clearing hearing. Is that informing us that the name clearing hearing statement in 3.2 is required on us by a higher level law?
No, normally the provisions would apply for that type of a personnel hearing under the government code for public employees.
Okay, so Bob, does that satisfy for you the reason why we have 3.2?
Well, in my whole career, 35 years working in county government, I've never heard of a name clearing hearing. It just is foreign to me to put a manager in a position that he's letting go an at-will employee because let's say they can't get along, or it's just not working for the mission of the organization. It's hard to put that in writing in a name clearing hearing and saying, well, you're you're harassing me, or it turns into something more than that. So it just strikes me as putting an undue burden on the manager on a willful termination. That's, I just don't get it.
And just one question there, if it is a termination based on the at will status and not because of the causes listed in section 4, is that name clearing hearing required?
You need a scale
It's in the Skelly.
Because it mentions the Skelly meeting,
Yeah.
is that the same thing?
Well, a Skelly hearing is usually something you have when you have a union employee or not a management employee. Very, well, you could have it for management employees, because
Yeah,
management.
that's correct. That is, as an example, is not the specific type of hearing. That applies to police officers who are required to provide a statement, in regards to discipline, et cetera. And it has to do with the peace officer bill of rights, but it's not specific to management employee outside of a law enforcement context, but it's there by way of example.
Not this part, it says subject to summary dismissal without any right of hearing.
Yeah. So let me just ask the question one more time. If you're doing the termination for clause, then you have to do this section 3.2, a written statement describing the clause and the name of the clearing hearing. If you're doing an at-will termination, does 3.2 apply?
No.
Okay. And if we could just,
What then is the conceptual difference between terminating somebody for cause and just terminating somebody? Why would you ever terminate somebody for cause essentially with prejudice if we don't have to?
okay, so here's the sentence that's confusing me. The general manager may terminate the employment of assistant general manager at any time with or without cause upon compliance. That said, assistant general manager at any time with cause upon compliance with the provisions, and took out without cause, it seems like this says you have to do 3.2 with or without cause. If we're only gonna apply 3.2 and 4.0 when there is cause, then if that said may terminate the employment of the assistant general manager at any time with cause upon compliance with, meaning you're terminating the employee, or you almost have to terminate the employee for cause. I just would wanna make it clear that this 3.2 doesn't come into play if it's a willful, if it's an at-will termination.
So then in section 2.2, would you like it to say without cause rather than with or without? In that last sentence?
I would like it to say at any time with if cause, or however it's appropriate. If there's cause.
Because that cause is saying that, like, if it was to just say with cause, my understanding would be that then these are the only reasons that there could be a termination, which what you described earlier as far as like not really jiving with the culture or not being able to work well together, then that would be like off the table.
I think what Bob is saying is that by including without clause there, it is implying that, or actually I think it's explicitly stating that sections 3 and 4 apply to the precedent of that sentence of the termination without cause, whereas if it says that the general manager may terminate the employment at any time with cause after complying with 3 and 4, that scopes 3 and 4 to only being for with cause termination.
Okay.
I think that there are two issues. One is the question that Jay asked that I will get to in just a second. But if you're looking at 2.2, I think I see where the confusion might be coming in, and I think it can be fixed like this. General manager may terminate the employment of the assistant general manager at any time with cause as set forth in section 4 of this agreement, or without cause upon compliance with section 3.
That makes
I
sense.
would just change that, it would say that general manager may terminate the employment of the assistant general manager at any time for cause upon compliance with these two sections. That's what, I would just say for cause, meaning that if there's for cause, you gotta apply with 4 and 3.2, and if there's a serious violation down here, then it's okay to put it in writing.
So to defend Ethan's comment now, by
Okay.
removing the comment without clause, it seems to no longer leave any provision by which we can terminate somebody without cause, except for the indirect statements that they are an at-will employee, which, as you pointed out earlier, isn't actually defined in the document, except by way of that sentence saying that we can terminate them without cause. So I think what Ross was doing is trying to average
Okay.
the two comments.
I
in order
liked
to-
that
Alright.
too.
Yeah.
Cause I feel like it provided two routes of with cause and then without cause based on the at-will status. That's your intention with that fix, Ross, right?
Exactly, to say that the general manager can terminate, the employment of the assistant general manager. I think, hearing that last comment, should say at will in accordance with section 3, or with cause in compliance with section 4. I think that clears up that language. I see where the confusion was coming in, and I think that's a good thing to point out. I want to make sure that I address a concern that Jay raised with respect to why is there a distinction between the two. And the short version, or I guess the simple explanation, is that when someone is terminated for cause and they go and seek employment someplace else, and if the new and potential employer calls the prior employer and says, we know that this person worked with you, if that person was terminated for cause, the prior employer is able to say without fear of retaliation or legal repercussions, this person was fired. This person was terminated for cause under, one of these conditions, as opposed to termination at will. It allows for the employee potentially to resign, or you can say that it was a probationary type of a situation and it just wasn't a good culture fit, what have you. So there's a little bit more legal protection when you define particulars for a for-cause termination with respect to what can then be reported after that. That's why that distinction is made.
Okay, one more question I have actually on this fix on 2.2. If we're referring to separating the section 4 and section 3, should section 3.2 written statement describing cause that says in the event the assistant general manager is terminated for cause get moved to under 4.0, which is the section termination for cause?
Yes.
That's a good point.
Good catch.
Yep. That's a very good observation. That should be moved.
That's a good change.
So we have consensus that, Ross, you're gonna work this and it's gonna come back to us?
Yes.
Great,
I think that's what needs to happen, given the comments that I've seen.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Oh, that was quick.
Quarter hour, that's.
Yeah, 15 minutes, you're
Do
right.
we have any public comments on that the item 4.4? Or not 4.4, 4.2, the general manager contract? Seeing none, we just tabling this, we don't need to take a motion?
Bring it in the next meeting.
Okay.
Just quick comments. Even though I'm really happy we had this discussion, I just want to say this is a reflection on us just getting these policies together and not on our welcome to our assistant general manager. We're
Yeah,
very
really.
enthusiastic and excited to welcome Deborah Anderson to the team. I know you're going to give a larger welcome, but you want to give just a few highlights?
Yeah, so Deborah's lived in Santa Barbara County for 5 years now, and she had spent some time working in the HR department for the county of Santa Barbara, and now she's been working for regional government services doing contract work for different cities and special districts in the Central Coast. And her current project is helping the city of Port Hueneme hire 50 lifeguards to be able to run their summer beach program after it had been botched in some way. And so she's doing consulting work with them and wrapping up that hiring process before coming to us. And so she actually has a history as a mediator and running a mediation program at the corporate level. So she also that was a great part of her experience to bring into us. She has experience in some marketing, and that was another part of the job description that we were happy that she had a lot of ideas on branding and how to better do communications for the district. And so I'm really excited to work with her. I mean, she has a pretty long-term experience with different types of government. She's also worked for Southern California Edison, and so she's familiar with them. And we joked around about our complications getting information about them. So now we have someone from the inside. So she has a lot of experience in HR, which I obviously don't. And so that was another part of the calculation is she will bring in more of that HR knowledge of we are going to have other employees too besides the two of us as interns, and so she'll help us be stronger there. So I'm really excited for her. And in her so the second round interview was we asked the candidates take one of the job duties. There's like 5, and tell us how you would implement that job duty. And she chose the mediation program, and she really blew Spencer and I away in terms of just how deep and extensive her plan was to get that program to be operating at its highest level, and have a really strong identity and relationships in the community, how to just make it work the way we envision it can work. So that was just it was great just hearing that and seeing how she had learned so much about Isla Vista and thought through so many different pieces of the program. So I'm really excited to work with her. She's really energetic, high energy individual who I think is going to do a good job with us.
Well, congratulations on an awesome pick.
Yeah, thank you.
And just one more comment on this contract. I didn't mean our discussion to be anything other than, I don't like the negative part of any contract about before we even hire somebody, we have to talk about how we're gonna terminate somebody. It just seems anti-hiring employees. And hopefully, when we hire all our other employees, we don't have to do it by contract, and we have good policies and procedures, and we have good expectations with our employees about them wanting to come to work for us and us wanting them to come to work. And that's just my philosophy. I try and avoid the other part of it, which is, it's very tough when you have to let somebody go or terminate somebody, and that to me should not be the focus of a contract. So, I don't know how you get there, but with that,
That's
That's
it.
it?
Yeah. Well,
we have that
bring this
famous,
back.
oh, no, wait, we got reports from board members. And so,
Yeah,
any reports from board members, starting with Jay?
So, last Monday, the Isla Vista Recreation Park District hosted the CSDA local chapter meeting here in Isla Vista. And the main humorous thing to report is that during the meeting, there were comments about the fact that we did not have a flag. And there were comments about taking up a collection for flag. And I sat in the back and chuckled.
Like a flag,
A flag.
a U.S. flag, or
A
like
U.S. flag, so
for
the
us,
Pledge of Allegiance could be performed at that meeting, and yeah, it was. It came up multiple times during the meeting. Yes.
Jonathan and I actually had a meeting with the Family Justice Center in the Survivor Resource Room, and they pretty much discussed, is it a 1-year project?
I think it's a 1-year consulting with
Yeah.
CSB, yeah.
Yeah, to talk about STESA and sexual assault and how they were actually recognized by Oprah, right? They went on the Oprah show, and they're happy to work with us, and they're looking forward to working with all of us. So that's nice.
Ethan?
On July 18th, I'll be meeting with STESA in part of a group that they've convened of community partners to help identify prospective board members for their organization. It's a process being led by Nancy Weiss. I don't have anyone in particular in mind, but I think they're going to facilitate a nice process, so excited to participate in that. And then also last week I was on vacation in Fire Island Pines in New York for a week, and former director Jordan was actually there too. Funny enough, saw on Facebook. But it was really cool because it's this unincorporated community that's on this barrier island in New York with no cars, and I was staying in the home of someone who was on the board of directors of a few of their special districts there. It's also a community served by many special districts. So I was especially excited to see the coastal community without cars, so more on that soon.
Director Thurlow. And the only thing I have to report is Jonathan and I have been working on trying to close the books and get the final audit out, and Jonathan has done a great job on both those projects of, just bringing it forward and getting it done. And I'm always just helping him sign things after he completes them, so well done. And then do we have any reports from standing and ad hoc committees? Nothing to report.
Ordinance committee, the graffiti abatement committee,
Do you want to?
We had a initial discussion with Ross about some of the complexities that come up with such a let's actually provide some background for anyone. The specific ordinance we've been looking at is related to graffiti abatement, looking at an ordinance that would require homeowners to participate in the process of the graffiti abatement. We had initial discussion with Ross related to some of the legal considerations to be considered while working on such an ordinance. One of the big things that we talked about is the boundary lines of private property and what we are capable and incapable of doing with regards to that. And we were looking at, and this is, I'm trying to provide this report in the sense that it's like, this is, if I'm incorrectly reporting on this, please poke me about it. I think what we ended up coming to was a staged approach, whereby we will initially begin with a attempt to work with the property management companies and property owners on a at-will compliance program, and then attempt to scale that up later into something where once we get a lot of at-will compliance, I'm missing, there's a better term for that, but that we will then try to scope that into an ordinance to bring other property managers into compliance. And so that way it's kind of a process by which some of the people that I might describe as being our enemy on such a system, actually we're making them our friends at the beginning, and then using them to work with their compatriots in order to essentially be friendly about the whole process.
I got off after the first hour, so.
Oh, okay,
that
so
sounds
you
like
can't,
we're ending up.
so you were waiting, you want to be
Thanks for the update.
There you go. Yeah, I just want to make certain, because there's also some things where it might have been the case that like I had been leaning towards a particular conclusion, and maybe I thought that we had concluded something that we hadn't, and so I want to make certain that you were in the call to the very end. So.
Ross and I have the compiled notes from the meeting that we just got together yesterday, so if you want me to bring, but yes, Jay's right, it's going to be a tiered approach. Let me just bring this up.
And while you're bringing that up,
Yeah.
one theme throughout the first hour was that we all felt that there needs to be accountability from the property owners or property management company, but that responsibility does not fall on the tenants who are occupying it, because they wouldn't be in the position to make the improvements.
So basically what the phases would be is, the first phase is we'd have a graffiti abatement consent form. That's, I think, the word you might have used.
Yes,
consent form.
yes.
And so we'll get that out to every property owner, all 900 parcels. And if they consent to us, coming up and cleaning graffiti or maybe any other issues, then on like fences or walls, then they sign that up, and we'll just have on record, like, these are all the addresses where if we got a graffiti issue, we're able to just go and handle it. We'll do like a 12, he says it'll be a 12-month would be probably the most ideal one. We have to still weigh the cost recovery if we do that with the consent form system, but we can do it with or without, he said. And then in the second phase, we'll have to work with the county to get them to write a resolution and pass it at the Board of Supervisors to authorize us to be graffiti abatement enforcers in Isla Vista, since they also have an ordinance. So basically having the county officially delegate graffiti abatement to the IVCSD. And then the last phase is when Ross's office will create the graffiti abatement ordinance and provide it to the board for approval. So basically, we'll try to work with people who want us to help them first, then we'll get the county to make us the official graffiti abater in Isla Vista, and then we'll have the ordinance.
Now, one question, not on the agenda, so I'll
Yeah.
follow up later.
Okay. And then, does district council want to make a presentation, or is Ross off the phone?
He'll do it at the next.
Yeah.
next-
Okay, and then the last is any reports from the general manager?
Yeah, just a couple. So, July 28th is the retreat. If everyone is good with that, we'll get the agenda planned and everything. Contact me if you have any thoughts you want incorporated. We kind of reviewed some topics last time, but anything else you want to make sure is highlighted in the retreat, let me know. Community center, we hired our new community center director as well. Her name's Deanna Fuente. You might be familiar with her. She's been Associated Students Isla Vista advisor, and so now we have brought her over here to work with us. So we'll do the official press release. We're finishing it up. We need one more quote, and we'll send out tomorrow. So that's who we selected. And
Just so I'm clear, she's an employee of Isla Vista
youth project.
Youth Project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does she interact with this board?
So the community center director will interact directly a lot with the advisory board that we've created, and that'll be their primary relationship with the IVCSD. But there'll still be reports about our grant and how our money is being spent that'll end up coming back to us, and she'll make those reports. So she'll definitely be a partner in moving all the things forward that
But we're gonna pay her salary.
we pay IV youth projects. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna pay her salary.
Yeah, so she's not our employee, but it's an indirect path to her from us.
In close collaboration with you as general
Yeah,
manager?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
she'll work in our offices, she'll be part of our ecosystem pretty tight. But just formally employed and paid by, her checks are cut and signed by IV youth projects, and she works with their leadership team, and she'll work with our leadership team, and, yeah. And so, we also, as a part of that, we're also Lori made the decision to bump up Paulina, who's our coordinator right now, to assistant director of programs instead of community room coordinator. So we'll have, I think the thinking is that this room plus the community center will both be called the community center. It's considered one thing. So two, as IV community center director and IV assistant director for programs.
So is Paulina's, is that public, that she's been made the director of programs?
That's public.
Okay.
She knows. And then the cab is almost, we're gathering up, we have all the public members' applications now in, and they'll be ready for the board to appoint on the 23rd. Spencer and I are still chasing down the organizational reps, so we'll get there for that. And then in reserves, I already gave you the update. We had a great year, and we actually matched our $777,000 revenue projection. We got that 100%. Literally, we made $7 extra. It was exactly how much we
pretty good.
predicted it would be. So
We're bringing you over to the university.
yeah.
Well, wait, we gotta see how well we do on our accruals.
Yeah. We actually have 10 more days to know if we got it exact or not. But our accrual projections, which we base off reality, did put us at $777,000. So we'll see how close we made it. The audit, if you all got the digital version, I have your paper versions in the office. If you want them now, or if you just want them at the next meeting when the auditors are presenting it, it's up to you. But we have the audit. And then we only had to do one expenditure accrual this year, which is nice, the internship. So that was good. And the Survivor Resource Center, finishers all built. I spent the afternoon yesterday building it. We have just one more piece, so that's pretty much ready to go. We've got to sign the new agreement that you approved, and we're done there. And then this is one new thing I want to add to my reports, is what's coming up at the next meeting that we have projected. And so we'll have updates on our safety programs from Matt Bowman on the interpersonal violence and the safety stations. And then we'll probably maybe have some suggestions to put in our new contract with the safety stations, if there are any. We'll have an update from Ivy Beautiful on just where the work has gone. It's been, it'll be 2 months by the time we present this since the last one. And then that'll be a precursor to what do we do next in terms of the pilot's almost over, how do we take this to the long term? We'll have an update on the lighting, and then we'll do a preliminary financial review of 2018-19, just so you can see where our expenditures and revenues exactly look like. And then we'll have the cab appointment, we'll have the community center agreement, and then the audit, and then my salary review, which is in my contract. So those are all things that are coming up this month, and obviously the retreat, but that's a whole other deal.
I think that concludes our agenda.
Motion to adjourn at 7 o'clock.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.